Live, Alafia and greetings, Hotep. Thank you so much for joining me on this particular segment. And this segment is coming from Omi Inca's Man 2 production. So, how's everybody doing today? I hope everyone is fair to Midland. And I'm broadcasting on YouTube as well as broadcasting on Facebook. So, how are my Facebook friends? Hello, Manny. How are you? Welcome. I'm waving back at you. I'd like to say hello to each and every one of you. And this is a part two segment of my actual priesthood and priestess training. And we started that on our blog talk, and I'd like to continue it here as part two on my YouTube as well as my Facebook. So how is the Facebook family doing? I haven't spoke with you in a while. I'd like to bid you welcome. And I say you have your Omi Inca, your Empress is here. I'm here to serve you. I am your advocate. Whatever you like, I'm here to serve you. I'm here to advocate for you as well. And today we are going to be talking to those neophytes, those pre-candidates who are looking to be a part of the priesthood, but who are just not ready yet, but would like to start with the prerequisites and getting prepared to go into the priesthood. Now, I'd like to say that I received my training from two places, and I haven't actually told you the two places. I only have mentioned Chief Metahochi, but let me also mention Ron and Nefer Amen. He was the first person that I studied with, and under the study guide he prepared was the Metanetter. Oh, okay, I'm having a little hard time here. Was the Metanetter 1 and 2. And I don't know if you can see this Metanetter book here. This is the Metanetter 1 volume. For those of you who have not seen this, this is the Bible. And Rana Nefer is outstanding in his Kemetic teaching. He teaches for the Asar Aset group. And I used to actually study with the Asar Aset. And some of the teachers introduced me to the Metanetter 1 and 2. Now, I like to say that I wanted to give him credit because I started meditating with Ron and Nefer. And then I went on to read his Metanetter 2. Okay? One actually has the readings in the back of the book and gives you a full guide. These are a must read. These are must books to have in your library. And not to mention, Rana Nefer also put out the Tree of Life meditation system, the Tome system. And this is the system that brought me so much guidance and direction with my studies for meditation. Excuse me for 1 minute. I'm going to get you back online here. Okay. These were the books that I studied with before I ever met anyone in the area of Ifa. I came to know Ifa later, but I came in contact with Rana Nefer's study. He also has a priesthood training. I was not in the priesthood training, but most of my friends were priests, and I studied with them. So I was able to get a better understanding of the Kemetic reading. This is where I saw it all take place. In the Kemetic teaching, I had a reading done that was so real, it was manifested for me. And because of that reading, it changed my whole life and the way I meditated and the way I worshiped. I then at that point began to use meditation with everything I did. So I thought I would use meditation to my right side of my brain. So while I'm writing, while subliminally under a trance, half awake and half asleep, I would begin to jot down my poetry. And lo and behold, those things from my right side of my brain began to manifest, and I was able to write poetry while under meditation, while up under a trance. And I wrote 36 poems over a period of a year. And collecting these poems, these were things that were in my psychic that I didn't even know I had placed there. There were things that talked about the Kemetic life. Every one of the poems just about addressed something concerning the Kemetic life. And that's what meditation will do for you. Your right side of your brain will begin to pull information from your right side, your creative side. Now, not to mention that there was decks of cards that you could take into meditation with you, and you could meditate and sit and manifest things in your life. I know this to be true because at one point when I tried my hand at poetry, I was not able to even write poetry until after finishing the meditation. So I can say it is definitely a prescription for those of you who are writers out there and would like to jumpstart your writing. I definitely recommend his material for prompting your right side of your brain while in the meditation. Now, I said all that to say this. Even though I became an Ifa priest, I always stayed connected to the Rana Nefer material because he was a prolific writer and he was writing things long before anyone was. And he has a school of thought that trains the priests and priestesses to become priests. And I would definitely suggest his training for those neophytes who are interested in going into training, because this would help you to be an oracle reader. Because after reading the whole charts, you would learn all of the actual Elohims, like the Orishas. You would learn their colors, their days of the week, and their attributes. And it would make you very proficient in addressing the actual Orishas. So one of the things that neophytes must understand, it takes a lot of preparation and a lot of reading and reading other people's material to build a foundation. You just don't walk into priesthood, but you can be a manifestor. How many of you out there are manifestors? How many of you have manifest things in your life that you never thought you could? Now, I had professed, on one of my tapes that I did for Facebook, that I was a seer. I was born with the third eye open, so I could see things and dream. I was a dreamer and had the ability to dream. But being a manifestor is much greater than all of those things, because the things that you perceive that you want in your life and that you want to be a part of and you want to be drawn to you, you can manifest those things. Why do I say that? It's because whatever you put your mind to, your mind will focus in on manifesting and drawing those things to you. That's what meditation is all about, people. When you go into meditation with one of the emblems from the Kemetic teaching and you meditate on that particular emblem, whatever the attributes are in that emblem, it will be drawn to you. You go into the supernatural. You go into the sub-supernatural, where you actually take the pressure off of your conscious mind and put it at the supernatural level, where you immerse yourself into water in your supernatural brain. And that is where you manifest things in that level. And that is where things that you couldn't do in the natural, you can begin to do them in the spiritual. And when you come out of that trance, you are able to carry that gift or that talent over to the natural world, and you can manifest that thing which you were not able to do prior to going into meditation. That is the purpose of meditation. I say meditation is much more grander than any prayer. It's a behavior modification that gets you results. So get into meditation. When you see me closing my eyes, I'm going off into a trance. I am into meditation. I have left the body with an out-of-body experience, and I'm seeking at the supernatural level for answers, for solution. And that is where you work out your problems and you master those things that you could not do in the natural. A number of you don't realize, but a lot of college students practice meditation so that they can retain information. They go into a trance while writing their notes, and they take those notes with them in the trance, and they begin to record and recall that information so that while they're half asleep, subconsciously, they will remember this information because they put it in their subconscious. And when they come out of that trance, they have mastered that information and can recall it verbatim. And usually like having a photographic memory. So why haven't we used but maybe 20% of our brain? Why is the rest of it laying dormant? Because we have not exercised our gifts to find out how we can be a manifestor. So for those neophytes who are interested and are still wondering, do I have what it takes to become a priestess? If you are a seer or a manifestor and you have been able to manifest things in your life, you are definitely suited for the actual category of a priest or priestess. Now, let me tell you why. If you have a need of something and you don't know where the funds are going to come from, hold on for a minute here, I'm tearing up things. You don't know where the funds are going to come from, and you have pondered over this thing, and I'm talking to those people who get desperate out there. Some of us African people, we live on the edge of desperate lifestyle, because when we don't have things, we panic and we get desperate. I want to say to my people, my African American people, don't get desperate and don't get weary in well-doing. A lot of people get caught up into wrong things because they don't have the faith to stand on, to believe that they are an overcomer. And that thing that they need, whether it be gas money, whether it be the rent money, whether it be the taxes, whether it be the child care fee, you can manifest those things. I'm going to tell you something that's going to bless you. When God knows your needs, you have to verbally express them. Don't go around here saying, well, God knows my needs. He should have provided that. What you have what you say. When you speak it into existence, the ether takes hold of those words. And if you're a manifestor, you're speaking positive affirmations. You are saying in the present tense, I have that money for the rent. I'm going to get that money for the rent. That money for the rent is here already. You are going to speak in the present tense, not in the past tense. I wish I had it. You have got to manifest the words in the ether, because I can give you an example. There has never been a time that I needed to manifest money that if I did not meditate on it, that I couldn't draw it. I was sitting in my home and a young lady came and said to me, I have a coupon for you to go over and get your eyes examined and get your glasses. And I want you to go to Walmart. This messenger was sent by God. I kept telling her, I'll get to it later. I'll go later. She said, no, go now. I want you to go now. At that particular opportune time that she insisted that I go now, I dropped what I was doing because I figured synchronicity had set in, that someone had sent her to me because she was the messenger sending me to Walmart, because the manifestation that I had put my mind to was going to be manifest there. Something clicked in my mind and said, look, can she be the messenger sending you a message to send you to Walmart to pick up that little package that you need? When I went to Walmart, and normally I wouldn't have went over to the buggies because I was going in for an eye exam. I wasn't going in to shop. But something said, go over to the baskets. Go over to the basket. and get the money out the fish mouth. And I was like, "There's no fish out here." But some said, "Go over to the basket. I have something for you." I went over to the basket, and there lay an envelope packed full of cash, as if I was pulling it out of the fish's mouth when I pulled it out the basket. I quickly picked it up. I never counted it. I put it in my purse, and I walked into Walmart. I looked to see if there was any name on the envelope, to see if anybody I could return it to, but there was nothing but an envelope. And I thought in my mind, is this the Creator manifesting the amount of money I needed, the exact amount of money that I needed to process my rent with? And I was waiting, but I wanted to have it on time. So when I went into Walmart, I just opened it up and glanced at it, and I almost fainted. I said, "Who could have left this here?" I said, "Why did she send me over here? And why did I come? Was this a message from God? Did I manifest this?" And then a voice spoke to me inside, said that you manifested that money. Isn't this the amount of money you said you needed? Didn't you say that it would come on time? This is the amount of money that was sent to you. It was like manna from the clouds. It was like manna feeding me. And nevertheless, I manifested it, and it showed up. And that was not the only time I was able to manifest things in my life. Right at the opportune time when I needed them. I'm telling you, folks, there is something to this universal teaching. You can find a way to get your needs met. While in the Christian churches, they would never speak of universal teaching. They would never speak of lighting candles for your blessing. They would never speak of meditating on the word and going into a trance to begin to deposit information in your subconscious mind for you to manifest in the natural. No, they wouldn't have it in their churches. They would say it's blasphemy. You'd be a misfit there. That was why I felt so out of place all the time, because I was manifesting. Blessings were coming to me. Visions were coming to me about people, to make prophecies, to warn someone to get out of that house because there's going to be a fire there. And to tell them, "I saw you last night jumping out the window. That house is going to burn down." And then the next day it burns down. You are a manifestor. You are a seer, and you can see into the lives of those that are very close to you and your loved ones. We have not because we ask not. Too many of us are locked in prison because we're not exercising our gift of manifesting those things we need. It's no way that if foxes have holes to go in, birds have nests. How is it that God's people can go without a place to lay their head? How is it that the Maker can make provisions for them and cannot make provision for his sole provider, who he depends on, who he works through, who he manifests himself through? That's because you are not thinking clear, that you have to ask for what you want. You have got to put it in the atmosphere, and you've got to tell the universe to help you. When you cry out to the universe too, because the universe is your keeper too. The oceans and the rivers and the rock. But ain't no rock gonna cry in my place. Long as I can glorify his name. He inhabits your praises, and he wants you to come cling and say, "I don't have this, but I am reaching for this solution to these things, and it will manifest itself." Don't be quick to give up on God and go the alternative way of doing something illegal just to get that whatever to get you by. We always in a crunch. We always in need, standing in the need of prayer constantly to fulfill those things in our life, our basic essentials. Well, God is supposed to give you your basic essential. He's supposed to give you abundantly more. You're supposed to be abundantly rich. You're supposed to think yourself rich, and don't go manifesting the lowest level basement life. Manifest a mansion in a gated neighborhood where you can see yourself prospering, advancing, because God is responsible for giving you the prayers that He has, all the prayers that you have given up. God is responsible for giving you those blessings. And they're sitting up there waiting for you to manifest them. You must learn to be a manifester. Isn't that right, Robert Jackson? You must learn to be a manifester. Now, let me tell you about the Bob Jackson that I know, that resided in Europe. He foresaw something in me that I didn't even see. When I went to register with him to teach a class, he said, "Oh no, you didn't come here for that. You are a solo gospel artist and you deserve to be singing." He saw in me what I didn't see in myself. I said, "Well, no, I came to sign up to be an adjunct faculty." He said, "We're having auditions for the next Jackson female singer in our group. I think you should try out and audition for the spot. And if you are chosen, you can tour along with us." I had sang in Gary, Indiana, all over the city. I had paid my dues, certainly. I had been in orchestras and traveled with Mr. Jackson, another man that was named Mr. Jackson. What a coincidence. But nevertheless, I heeded to what he was telling me. And I said, "You're right. It is my time. Maybe I can get selected to be a part of this group." I then auditioned for the spot in the Jackson Singers, the Soulful Jacksons, right there in Frankfurt, Germany. I was told that I would be bestowed a lifetime contract. For as long as I stayed in Europe, I was to receive royalties. How many times do you get an artist that walks into a situation where she didn't even know she was going to audition and find out she was asked impromptu to sing on the spot, and her solo made it in to a lifetime contract? Is that synchronicity? Is that being a manifester? I've always wanted to be a gospel singer and had saw myself singing in a gospel group, so I manifested it, and it appeared, and I brought it forward through my conscious mind that was subconsciously working it out in the natural. So Bob Jackson was my hero. He was my deliverer. He became a family member where he broke bread with my family and I, and we once a week met up to meet with his wife, and we became friends and family in fellowship just because we were from the same state, Indiana. Now, I said that because of Mr. Jackson walked in this room, and I don't know if he's related to Bob DeWitt Jackson or not, but if he is, he's a good man, because Bob was able to get in the middle of my blessing and manifest it and make it come to fruition. Some of you are sitting on blessings right now. Some of you are sitting on manifested things that you should have long did, but you're afraid of stepping out on faith because it may not come to fruition. You're afraid of being a failure. There is no failure in God. When you step out on faith, you must put some work behind your faith, because faith without works is dead. And if you don't help your blessings, they won't ever come to pass. But we must learn that we don't have to get involved with the secret. We don't have to get involved with this manifesting class of $2,000s of dollars. We are natural manifestors because of our melanin enriched bloodline, because we have the ability to call things forth and use mental telepathy to send messages across the frequency wave. We have that ability to call alchemy to us. Even the ethers in our hair are ninth ether that are communicating back and forth to the Creator. And our ninth ether has the ability to draw signals to us. We are a manifestor walking around in a transformatic atom body that has frequency that can draw alchemy. Alchemy is money. Alchemy can be drawn to you. If you don't have altars, set up one. Put your money on the altar. Then go and get the shredded funds that they've thrown out in the banks and put that frequency on your altar too. So when you manifest and request to have your car payment, your insurance note, put it all on the alchemy and lay it on the altar. See, I can't get you in no other way to pray. I can't get you to come into a traditional African religion. But when I speak of money, that gets your attention because you're drawn to alchemy. And those of you who are rich, and I don't mean just rich in monetary gains, but in your spirit, you can't be poor. There's no way you could be poor, because when you put that frequency out there, that frequency that you put out will be the frequency you'll draw on. And financial gains doesn't only make you rich. It is your rich relationship. And I told you that story of Bob because we created a rich relationship. And because I was able to tap into that rich relationship, Bob was able to transfer that rich personality over to me, that where I would have normally had to work 2 jobs to manage my financial situation until my husband got on his feet. It was set up so that my husband and I and my children could travel. And this could be an excursion trip while I earn money singing the gospel all over Europe. Now tell me that ain't a blessing. That was a blessing that I didn't anticipate. I went to go work for the government to teach school, but I ended up being a gospel singer in addition to teaching school and touring all over Germany, making a name for myself and gaining income. We can manifest these things, people. We can manifest these things. Quit waiting for the next millennium for your blessing. Your blessings are now faith. As you speak to the ethers in the atmosphere, you tell them what you want. And if you have a relationship with God, you command God. Because in the Bible it says, command you me. And when you command God to watch over his word, to perfect it, it will not return unto you void. It cannot. It's a law and it's a principle. Base your life on laws and universal principles, because we are functioning from this dead book that is not speaking of universal teaching. You have to stray away and get excess materials and authors who are speaking on universal teaching, and develop your skills in the universal area of manifesting, and begin to start to call things out that be not as though they were. I tell you, when you make it up in your mind that you're never going to be poor, and that you are never, if you've never seen God's people begging for bread, and if you've never been poor, make it up in your spirit that you're going to be a giver, and that through your giving, that gift will come right back to you. But we got to be a manifestor. There's too many of us being locked up for roguish behavior, for going into places and stealing and having roving eyes and desiring the material, shiny things. You can have those things, people. Those are the gifts that God give you just for following him and being one of his ambassadors. Those are the gifts that come with the territory. When you are giving your life for God, anything your heart desire, it is there. It is written that you are an ambassador. And he's called all of us to be evangelists. Do the work of an evangelist. Don't just wait to get in the priesthood. Start the pre-process. Start the process of speaking and being a bodhisattva, someone that preaches the word to someone who's lost. Use your gifts because your desires will be met with yea and nay. Anything your heart desire, it will manifest itself in you speaking it and audibly saying it out loud where the ethers can grab it and begin to manifest it and work it out in the supernatural. We have too many burdens upon our conscious, upon our conscious mind that needs to be worked out in the subconscious. That's why you need to go into a trance. Take some of the pressure off you in the conscious level and go to the superconscious level. And Ron and Nefer can help you through his books. He can show you the proper way of meditating and finding a mantra to meditate on and to use that one significant word to meditate on. As you meditate on that word and that mantra, it puts you in a trance. And when you self-guide yourself, don't let anyone else put you in a trance. Self-guide yourself to put yourself into a trance because you know when you want to come out. But don't go running around here with these people that say that they're a hypnotist and they can hypnotize you. No, I'm not talking about that. Don't let anyone hypnotize you, but take yourself into a supernatural trance and begin to be a believer that as you go into the supernatural and subconscious mind, you begin to work things out that you couldn't do in the natural. You begin to master things in your super subconscious mind. So when you get up out of that trance, if you weren't walking before, you'll start walking like a natural man because you saw yourself do it in the subconscious. You can also do it in the natural plane. Now, somebody needs to hear this today. I don't know who I'm talking to, but somebody needed to be encouraged today because he put it on my heart to come back on these airways and to preach this message to some of those potential EWOs or those devotees who are trying to keep up with the prayers for God, who are spending their time in their prayer closet praying and begging God and asking God to make sure that rent money is there next month. We all are two steps beyond being on the welfare line. We all are overnight, we become bankrupt after we pay our bills. We all are standing in a need, but we can change that. You can be a rich individual, not because I said so, but because you confirmed it. And you are a manifestor, and you can manifest all of the funds and the things you need. Women, quit looking for a man. God will send the man to you. He said it's a good thing for a man to find a wife, not for a wife to find a husband. Quit looking, and you will have all the proposals in the world. You'll have 2 and 3 men want to marry you at the same time, and you'd have to choose. See, we must put our energy on our prayer life. We must put our energy on magnifying him and uplifting him with positive words and using our manifesting ability to train others. We see people charging over thousands of dollars to come, like Louise Hay. Come to her training. She's going to teach you how to manifest. Don't you know black folks created this stuff? How is somebody that is of the Eurocentric belief going to teach us something about our craft, our gift, our ability? We are the ones that taught them. When Aristotle and Homer came into Africa, we taught them the meditating laws. We taught them the mantras. We taught them how to worship and praise and to set up their altars. We were the ones that taught them. So how are they going to be a master over something that we created? They are busily trying to take over these traditional African rituals so that they can prove to be the instructors of it. But we won't allow it. But some of them are getting in to become priests and priestess. And people are allowing them to come because they paid their money. But how is it that they're going to call out our ancestors that will come to help them? They must call on their own ancestors. And they cannot come in and overtake our traditional teaching of African manifestation. And they can't come in and act like they invented it, because we know that we have a soul. And God didn't make everyone with a soul. So don't get it twisted. A spirit is different from a soul. All of us don't have souls. God only gave it to one group of people. And I'm sure you know who that is. And that soul is who he ministers to. There are some people that don't have a soul. They don't have the ability to incarnate, to reincarnate. They don't have that ability. So we are black and we are blessed with a gift that we don't even know. And we're sitting around here worried about a job when you have the melanin in your veins that can represent you being a high priest, calling out problems in other people, making recommendation for correction in their lives, being able to be more than a soothsayer, but a high priest and priestess, which is what you ought to be striving for. Because God will manifest things to you that eyes have not seen, ears have not heard. He will show you to be not the witch doctor, but the high priest doctor with alternative. They got us back into YouTube. How are you doing, Terrell Garth? Thank you for joining us. Let's see who we got roll call in here. We got Manny. How are you? Joe Scott, James Powell, Norman Parker, Larry Hemphill. Hey there, Larry Hemphill. My nephew, how are you? Robert Jackson, Terrell Garth. Thank you so much for joining me, son. I appreciate it. Now, we're talking about being a manifester and how we can manifest things in our life. Now, some of my family members could tell you this, and it's the absolute truth. I manifested a house one time without no money. I hadn't even gathered the money up, but I knew that the money was coming. But I wouldn't put my eyes on a house, and I claimed it. And I claimed it in the name of God. I claimed it. And I asked God to manifest the money, the $2,000 that I needed for my down payment. God manifested that $2,000. And we were able to move out of my relative house and move into a house that God had manifested the money on. Now, we needed a car because I had to junk my car because the repairs were too great. And I asked God to even manifest me a brand new car. I said, I don't know how I'm going to do it, God, but I'm just starting on this job, but I can come to you and ask anything. And God manifested that car, a brand new car without any down payment. I'm telling you what I know, people. This ain't what I heard and this ain't what I seen. This is what I know. You have to stand on faith and believe that your audible words can manifest things for you. And I'm telling you, you're not going to find them in the church house. The church is not going to give you any of this type of information. And the church is not going to tell you to believe on any of these things, because they are not manifestors or universal teachers. They are teaching you from a biblio that they claim that God is self-contained in. God would never self-contain himself in one book. Then he would be declarable. If God is infinity, then you could not describe the number of pages that it would take to put God in there, because he's infinite in infinity, all-knowing and omnipotent, omnipresent. So why would you take a book and say that God is self-contained in here? It's not possible, not in this lifetime. And they have left some of the books out for fear that you would find out the real discovery. And the real discovery is the book has been imprinted on your Cosmic records. Everything that your ancestors ever were and everything that they learned, the oral teaching is on your Cosmic record. You have their full remembrance of everything that they have gone to. You are the full total reason for why they came. Everything that they know has been transferred over to you in your Cosmic records. So you have these abilities and you're getting help from your ancestors to prosper you in whatever venture you step out on. Some of you may say, Well, I never known my mother, and I don't see how she could be helping me. But I want to tell you something. I never knew my mother either, but I feel her presence with me all the time, beckoning for me to come on, moving things out of the way and going ahead of me, clearing the way for me. Some of you don't depend on your ancestors enough. You don't call on them enough. They have not left you. They have just returned their flesh to the ground, but their spirit remains around you intact. It is a frequency. You are made up of frequency. Energy cannot die, and your full body is energy. Energy cannot be destroyed. It can only dissipate and go back to where it came. And if we are combustible energy, that means that we never die. Our frequency remains with us, and it comes around the loved ones to support them. It's very vital that you should know this, and that you should stop looking for help somewhere out there with a spook god when you got your deceased loved ones who can join hands with you and join hands in a caravan to get things done. Now, you're not alone. Just Michael Jackson would say, you are not alone. The ancestors are with you. And that is who you must start acknowledging and communing with. Stop talking about Jesus and talking about the blue-eyed soul brother who is supposed to help you. He can't hear you. You're not his ancestor, and he wouldn't help you if he wanted to. The help that you would get has to be from someone that looks like you and thinks like you. If the best thing he could do is say, we want those black women sterilized and we want those men thrown in prison because they're afraid of you can annihilate them through your reproduction agencies of producing children. Do you not know that black women have been sterilized unbeknown to them to prevent their reproduction? And black men have been thrown in jail to work for low wages. It costs $79,000 a year to bed and to supply a man in prison. $79,000 a year? Most of our black families are not even bringing home $79,000 a year. If we can keep them in prison for cheap labor, you could take that same $79,000 a year and give it to those households and they can make it, and you can keep that black man out of prison. But why would you waste the taxpayers' dollars on an efficiency and a cave at that and a place that's full of bars and danger? Why would you even subject his life to a low level of an animal? That's because you're hoping he will come back to the institution and become institutionalized, and you will break him so that that thing that you said he was, he will soon become that. He will become an animal, but we're not going to allow it. We're going to constantly pray that that man remains with his tactful thinking and understand that he is a prudent human being, and he will come out of prison rehabilitated, unbeknown to the Caucasian man who thinks he's destroying this black man. You cannot destroy God's most precious one. You cannot. And all that you do to keep money from us, do you realize that people net worth in some parts of Boston, the Caucasian family's net worth is $200,000 in some parts of Boston, while the black family's net worth is $8. How are we making it? It must be through a supernatural blessing of some kind. People don't even know how black people are making it, but yet God is making provisions for his chosen people. And yet you hold all the funds and the reparations from us, but yet we still grow fat and reproduce children, and you don't even know how we're doing it because you have brought in AIDS, you have brought in HIV, and you subject our babies to these vaccines and these women to sterilization, but yet in Africa, they still populate and grow strong. You're wondering how, but how are they doing it? You're wondering, why didn't we kill them off a long time ago when they was in the womb? You cannot stop God's people, and you cannot kill us off. So all of these plans that you have and these supernatural laboratory things that you are planning in the laboratory, be careful that you don't fall into your own ditches, because it's our time now. If you want to be rich in your spirit, Black people, quit thinking about material things. They want us to buy the shiny things. They want us to go and buy the glittery things, things that have no value on them. Buying material products and buying things that you can get from the store. If you put those things up where moths can get to them, trust me, they will become tainted and will be destroyed. You cannot build wealth in material things. We must have land, and that more abundantly. And we must think towards riches that they cannot take from us this time. Do you realize the worth of the average white man is about $80,000 per household to our $13,000 under the poverty level? We have got to wake up. All the work that our mothers and fathers did on those farms out there and picking of the cotton, all of the work that they did, how you doing, Bruce Ward? All the work that they did, and yet we still remain poor, penniless, and without land. And then we're afraid to say that we deserve reparation, so we said we shouldn't get it, we ain't gonna get it. But then guess what? Those Indians, those no-talking, drunken Indians are coming in their faces, and they're demanding that all of those treaties that were broken be brought before the law and readdressed. Because when a treaty is broken, you can challenge that, but not necessarily reparation. How is it that they say that they can't give us any money, but yet the Indians are getting it out of them? And the Indians are not even authentic. They have been tainted with white blood, and they are not the original Aborigines. They are faking it. They are in our place trying to get our royalties. And when we keep turning our heads saying we don't deserve it, we shouldn't get it, we need to shut our mouths, and we need to represent as the Aboriginals, the original Aborigines who were first here on this plane. Some of us don't want to admit we came from Africa. They keep coming up with these lies saying, oh, we weren't on that ship. We couldn't have been on that ship. Some of us was on that ship. And some of us came from Sierra Leone. And some of us went over to South Carolina in the rice fields where we maintained the rice field, and we became the Geechee Gullies, and we were the untouchable who actually fought in that war and won. And who those so-called masters gave up the South Carolina area down in the swamps because they were overtaken by the mosquitoes. And they allowed those slaves to buy their land and own the deeds to their land. Now, guess what? They're down there with their construction crew, taking over the land, building mansions and condominiums on their land, on their mothers and fathers' land that have graveyards that they're now underturning and creating housing complex on them. What is it about the white man that he wants everything he sees, and he stockpiles everything that he thinks is good, and he wants to leave us penniless and broke? What is it about him? And why would he go down to the Geechee land and take what they have worked so hard for? They have lawyers, but they need many more lawyers to go down to South Carolina to represent those people and their land. They have land deeds and the title to their house showing that they were heirs of that land, but yet they are trying them in court overturning the cases to take the land from them, where they're getting pennies on a dollar for that land, when in fact that land should be paid for by now and no one should be able to touch it. And they wanted to keep it in the family. And all this time they've kept it in the family. Now you got construction companies know that it's down there by that little island, and everybody wants to be close to some water, so they're trying to steal the land from up under these Geechee Gullah people. But Queen Quet is speaking all over the place on behalf of them fighting for that land. But she could use some help. She could use some other voices. If any of you are lawyers out there, she can use some lawyers down there to help her. Now, I want to say this much. It seems like in this life, everything that we get, the white man comes after it and he takes it. And we let only 60 men in the universe rule over masses of people. It's not a lot of them. And don't let them keep calling you a minority. You're a majority. Everywhere you go, there is a black face like yours, even if it's in the bush. You are a majority. They have sold you a lie. You are not the minority. But yet we have these powerful powerful white men in small numbers who are striving to rule the whole world. And we are allowing it. That's because we don't have an army. And as long as you don't have an army, and they got the missiles, and they got the bombs, and they got the equipment to shoot you down, don't you know? You don't have to have a gun, and you don't have to possess one. And I'm telling all you black men who have guns, give them up. Go to your corner and start manifesting your gift. Your gift is a form of a gun. The great equalizer, your penis. And that's why the gun was created, to fight you off, because you had the great equalizer and they could not measure up to you. So they did one step better. They got the gun to help annihilate you. You can annihilate them with shooting your sperms and reproducing after your own kind. That's why you're being sought after, and that's why so many people are trying to lock up the black man to keep him from reproducing those babies, because they have deemed that anybody that we can reproduce after their own kind can annihilate them. They will become extinct. And the population right now of the Caucasian is a zero population. They don't have babies, and they're not producing babies. And we run around here scared. Scared of what? You're in control now. And you have the ability to go into a trance and to manifest things while under the trance. You have that ability, and you can take control anytime you want. But as long as you're fearing what the white man is going to do to you, you'll never take your proper place. Now, this here reparation that they've been talking about, forget that. They're going after all of the treaties that were broken. And Claude Smith is fighting. He's one of the lawyers, and he's fighting for the treaties. And he's gaining momentum, and I understand that he's winning. And we've got to think more positive. So what are we going to do with the money when they give it back to us? We're going to buy us some land, what they should have given us in the first place. And that land can never be sold, and it can be put in our last name, and it stays in the family, and this time we don't lose it. Do you not know what you could do with some land, and how you can bargain, and how you can go to the bank and get equity out to use to buy for your house, to pay your house off, to pay your cars off, and to pay your child's tuition through school? We've been fed a lie with this education. They've tricked us. And I know, because I personally know a situation where they told all the black people to go and consolidate your student loan, and that we can get that paid off faster. But the teachers had a loophole that said if you majored in science or math, that you could get over $7,000 of your loan forgiven. And if you had a position in a science department, but then they come back and they personally know, because you consolidated, you are no longer eligible for the forgiveness loan. That's how they got us, because I personally know, but we got to get them back. I hate to say this, people, but we got to get them back. We got to play tit for tat, because they can't outsmart us. And we have to understand that we have the vision, and we can see things, and we're the seers and manifestors, so we know things before they happen. But when they told the people that, the people could not get their loans forgiven because they had already consolidated them, and they figured that that's all they could do for you. They figured. But I want to tell every one of you disabled people that are students, you go in there and fill out the proper paperwork for your disability, because student loans shouldn't be overtaking us. They shouldn't be causing people to garnish your check. They shouldn't be causing people to go in your bank account and causing you to almost have to file bankruptcy because you got a student loan. They sold you a piece of the pie, they claim. They let you go and get a $150,000 loan to get a degree in being a lawyer that you can't even find a job in. And now you got a $150,000 loan to pay back, and you can't find a job in the profession. And if you do, the job only pays $50,000. You go figure that. They got us in a quorum because they said get an education, but they didn't say they were going to guarantee you a job. Now we got these here loans and liberal arts degrees, and we can't find a job, and we are working part-time in 2 different places and working for minimum wages, and then yet they sell us this garbage that get an education, things will be better for you. That is the biggest lie in the world. They got more black people to sign up to enroll in school and to get these educations, and they don't want to give them any jobs. Well, we're manifestors. We can manifest us a job. We can manifest us an opportunity to work for ourselves. And we have to put our heads together and look at how can we outdo them at their own game. And God always figures a way of escape for his people. But you cannot have that if you are busy saying that you can't do it, you can't face the white man, you can't challenge him. When you start with these can'ts, you have already defined what you can do and can't do. You must remain with an open mind. You are a manifestor. And if you plan on getting in the priesthood, that's the best place to be instead of church. Now you learn how to discover yourself. And you sit with yourself and get to know yourself. And subsequently, you get to know God through getting to know yourself. Don't tell me you can get into no theological school, because I got in a theological school and I spent a year and a half there. And I didn't learn anything about myself or about my sweet Jesus, other than the fact that he worshiped and he was a white man that couldn't do nothing for black people. So they sold us a crock of cream again. But you better believe when I spent my time in teaching and studying in the African tradition, I learned far more than I ever could have learned in a theological school that I had to pay money for. Now, I'm speaking to somebody right now that needs to hear this. I don't know who you are. I don't know where you're from, but I do know you need a word, and you've been waiting for a word, and you're trying to determine should you go back in the churches or not. You're trying to determine how can you make it from week to week with the type of job you got. You are wondering, how do you keep worshiping God when he's not hearing your prayers? You still praying to a white God and bowing down to a white Jesus. They're not going to hear you. That is called blaspheming. And you are not praying to a God that looks like you. Now, I don't care what you say that that's being prejudiced and you shouldn't be prejudiced. Hell, they've been prejudiced to us all our life. And it's not being prejudiced. A black person has nothing that he could withhold from anyone. So we don't have the capability of being a racist. So you can stop that lie right now. But it's important that you should understand that We have not because we are not confessing what it is that we should have. Those people in Haiti, those little people in Haiti that were sugarcane croppers and who made it up in their mind that they were going to give the Christian Eurocentric religion back. And Bookman Dadi and Jean-Jacques Dessalines, they said, if you would give the Christian faith back to their makers and step away from that false religion, that overnight you could be free and you could be redeemed from the pressures of slavery. They believed what Bookman Dadi said and Jean-Jacques Dessalines, but they said, go to your ancestors, wake them up and tell them to help us fight this war, to come and put on their mantles and go out with us to war, because there's more of them than it is of us. And we can take them with the help of our ancestor spirit. They went down to the graveyard, folks. They went down there and they summoned them. They said, get up, get up. There's a war that we have to fight. Put on your mantles and your breastplates of righteousness and the shoes with the gospel of peace and your helmet, and come on, because we're going to overtake these Frenchmen and we are going to take over the land. And we believe in you, ancestors, and we're calling on you to help us do the job. They made history, people, and you can read about it. It is documented that those Haitian men and women who went down there, they slayed the Frenchmen, they took over the land, and they gained their freedom. It was all because they leaned on their ancestors for that supernatural power that they came with and that they fought with. And we are leaning on a dead religion, thinking that Jesus in Christ is going to come down out of the clouds to rescue us, when in fact we have a black God, Oladula Mare, that we haven't called his name one time. He's wondering when you're going to wake up and call his name. He's wondering when you're going to call Oromala, the prophet that sculpted you, that knows the time of death and that can alter the day of death. He is the one that you should be pleading to. Oromala, the one that sculptured and molded you. But God said, stop. Now let me give the breath of life. And God gave the breath of life. He did not mold and sculpture you. Oromala did. And you went into contract with Oromala. You went into contract and told Oromala why you came here, what your destiny was, and you contracted with Oromala to come here to this earth to do a specific thing. But yet we're afraid of being manifestors. But yet we're afraid of believing in ourselves that we can have what we say and that we can manifest those things. We manifest it all the time. When you walk into an empty house and it's empty and you have no furniture, you visualize that furniture being in that corner. You visualize that refrigerator being stocked with food. You visualize that paycheck is going to come every 2 weeks. You are a manifester. You are manifesting more than you know. And you are calling it to you. And that's how life works. Nothing comes to those who have no faith. Prayer without faith is dead. I don't care how much you pray if you don't have faith to stand on it and then put some work behind it. We got a lot of people that are suffering for no reason than the fact that they won't stand on faith. And realizing that they're a manifester, and that measure of faith that God gave you is enough for you to have the things that you say. You don't need to ask God for no more faith. He gave all of us a measure of faith, that of a mustard seed, and that's all you need to plant in order to get the seed in the ground. He said one will come and water it, but he will give the increase. Now watch God give the increase on everything you need. If there's someone that has a need today, and there's someone that's bound to be put out of their house tomorrow through an eviction, there's someone that has an electricity bill due or a light bill due, now is the time to put your needs on the altar and manifest the money you need for those outstanding debt. Now is the time to believe that if you speak it into existence, it will come to pass. Use your affirmation. I have that money, and I'm going to put that money on that bill and put that dollar on the altar and believe on that dollar that it's going to draw and magnetize other funds to it. But we cannot have anything if we are speculating, guessing, and not realizing that we are manifestors. And a lot of us have manifested a whole lot of nonsense stuff that we didn't need. And we wonder, how do we get all this stuff? Because you're manifestors. And God has given you the desires of your heart every time. He may not show up when you need him, but he's always right on time. And being a manifestor means that you don't have to go without. Being a manifestor means that you don't have to have a basement life. You can live in a gated community with a house on the hill. I decree that you can. If you manifest that and that is in your heart's desire, it will come to you. And God will show you the finest things. I spent a whole year looking for a home, but none of them, God said, was suited. He said, I want to give you a new home, one that no one has ever lived in, one that's immaculate because you've earned it. And he presented it. And I decree, when you think of God in that manner, he will manifest those homes to you, those places to stay, those new apartments. You don't have to live a basement life. You don't have to. And God will manifest the funds that you need to make those payments too. But you got to understand that you are not a bellhop to God. God is supposed to be servicing you because he needs you. He needs a vessel to work through. God has no arms and no legs. He must use the arms and legs of individual. He cannot know experience except through you and you and you and you. He wants to know experience, but how can he when you are not making yourself available to him? Well, be his arms and his legs and be his deliverer, and he will give you the desires of your heart. And you will see that God can manifest these things through him when you believe and put your faith in him. But we have not, because we're not asking. We are so busy thinking that we can't have these things. Only white folks have those things. If you want to live in a neighborhood that is gated and you don't see yourself living there because you're a black person, God will fit you in. He will make you the talk of the town in that community, and they will all accept you. I know, because I've been there before. I've had the mansions. I've lived poor and I've lived rich, but I've never forsaken to see God to forsake me for anything. All the desires of my heart, I take it to him in prayer, and you got to take it to him in prayer. And you potential priests who are interested in the priesthood, you young people who want to get an understanding of what is the priesthood like, then take a pre-course to understand what is required of you. Because where much is given, much is required. You cannot go on in life not doing anything for God or not making yourself available to him, thinking he's going to give you the desires of your heart. You must make yourself available to God so that God can take that moment to use you and give you those things without you even speaking it. They will show up in your life. Sometimes we lose everything, hit rock bottom, but then we see those people get up on their feet, and before they know it, everything that they once had has been replaced and plentiful. You have not lost everything when you've gone through a battle with losing your home. God will give you that back and more. If you have to leave Europe and leave everything there, don't hold on to the riches. God can replenish that and give you that and more abundant. But you have to be an abundant praiser. You have to be one that is going to work for God and be an ambassador. You cannot be thinking God owes you anything without you being a prayer warrior for him. You've got to put yourself in a position that you can continue to do the work of an ambassador. Let me take roll here and see who's here. Okay. We have Manny. How you doing? Joe. How you doing, Jimmy? No, that's James. How you doing, Norman? How you doing, Larry? How you doing, Robert Jackson? How you doing, Terrell? How you doing, Bruce? Delroy? Cheryl? Kelly? How you doing? And thank you so much for joining me today. And Julie Harvey, yes, we can tag you. I guess we can. I don't know why you're not coming, but I'm tagging you. Okay. Now, how many of you are going to start meditating and stop so much doggone praying? How many of you are going to sit in front of your screen and meditate, closing your eyes, thinking on Him, going into yourself, allowing God to permeate your mind and showing you how you could go to the subconscious mind and manifest on the subconscious mind, taking some of the pressures off your conscious mind, relieving your conscious mind of the stress. Because on the conscious mind, you cannot manifest anything. You must go to the subconscious level where the water is, where you can deposit your thoughts. But you must understand that all these people that are talking about the secret and universal teaching, we gave it to them. Now, how they're going to repackage it and give it back to us? You've got to get in your prayer closet and you've got to manifest those same things. Some of them want us to come and deposit our thousands of dollars and be a part of their teaching. And some of them are beckoning us to come on. They're not going to give us show us a way to get free and clean. They're not going to show us a way to gain money because they want us dead. And as I can see in Africa, when they planted all the HIV and Ebola and all of the syphilis and AIDS that they planted, they don't want us alive. So for them to say, we want to give you something, they've never wanted to give us anything. They wanted us to struggle high and low to get whatever we got. And if you're getting welfare from them and food stamps, give that back and rely on God to do the work for you. A lot of us seniors could use food stamp, but I forbid you to get entangled in that. Give it back. If you have to go and wash clothes to feed yourself, gain some dignity, because that's a way to get you entangled. If you're using their medical and they're paying for it, give it back. Pay for your own medical. Then you won't have this strife with them. Because I declare they are seeking to destroy the black family and the black man. And if you don't believe it, look at the two greatest men that they have in prison right now. That is like imprisoning us as a people. They're showing us that they have the power and authority to take our finest Michael Jackson and dig him up from the grave and put some more dirt on him. How dare them go to the grave and bring back our dear brother Michael Jackson to try him a second time? How dare Oprah allow them to use her and Kim to go out there to put our people on the spot? Look at what we are experiencing. They are using us to indict us. And these people that think that they're gaining money from them and that they're in bed with, they are going to see it for themselves, that each one of them, Oprah and her counterpart, will see that they were just using them to exploit our black people, which will indict the whole black race. We are living in a time now, ladies and gentlemen, we must be manifestors. And we must not fear any man of what they can do to us as long as we're living a righteous life. We must not fear that because we have been given the word that we are manifestors and that God is, if he's using you, you can ask him what you will. And you don't have to fear that the white man will cut you off of your substance and your jobs. God will always have a job for his people. No matter what, no matter how hard you must try to understand that we are getting ready to rule again, and we must get in position to be rulers. And we are manifestors. That which we don't have, we're going to manifest it in place. That which we can't see, we're going to visualize it coming to us. And that which our children are not, we're going to build schools for our children. We're going to do all of these manners of things, but we must stand on faith. And we must go within ourselves periodically, daily, to meditate without ceasing, day and night, on his word and his promises that he has made to us. He's made promises that are yea and not nay. He owns the cattle and the horse on the hill. So how much more can the Heavenly Father give to us through asking and petitioning him? Set up your altars. Don't go another day without your altar. And put on your altar 7 glasses of water and dedicate each one of those glasses of water back, because that water knows no enemy, and that water will draw to it the currencies. You must understand we are looking at alchemy. Put your dollars and cents on your altar and pray for that you need, and ask God to send that to you. And he'll be just to remind you that if you're an ambassador of his, he will give you the desires of your heart. I want to thank each and every one of you for being with me today. And this is for those potential candidates who are priestess and priesthood trainers. This is for you, to give you an insight of what manifesting is and how you can use this gift to manifest those things that you need, and to realize that you are not alone and God is working with you and through you. And you must begin to believe that, Bishop. You must begin to believe that you cannot stand on your own. No man is an island. And each man's breath is our own. And we must cry out for R. Kelly. In spite of what he may have known or didn't know, he is our dear brother. So take some time to cry out for him and ask for mercy for him, that God may spare him and put him in right standing. But at the same time, call out for Bill Cosby, that he may make it out of there and that he doesn't perish in that prison. Look at the devilish things that they're trying to do to us. But oh, the cards are going to be turned, and the very holes that they've dug for us, they will begin to fall in them. And they're getting ready to happen right now with these Me Too movement going after their own kind. And we're going to see it come to pass. And these 2 men are going to be freed. Bill Cosby and R. Kelly are going to be free, and the cards are going to be turned on those who really deserve to be in prison. Now, I say that each one of you are going to realize that you have to be an ambassador. You have to do the work of an ambassador. So let's stop looking for a church to go to, that the church is going to deliver us. You are the living epistle. You must deliver yourself and go before the throne of grace and ask God to cleanse you of all your unrighteousness. And remember to pray on a daily basis, because the prayers of a righteous man or woman will availeth much. And all we need to do is go before God with our confessions, okay? And we must understand that church is in the heart. We are living episcopal. And it's going to come a day that these churches are going to have to get radical and stand up and lead the caravan to fight with us, because we're going to have to formalize our army. And we can't do that sitting in no church being a Bible thumper and doing nothing. We have to formalize and get ourselves together for this spiritual war that we're about to partake of. I want to thank you so very much for following me today, and do follow the leader. Go down below and subscribe and become a member. Also, Facebook people, go and become a follower. I don't need any more friends, but I do need followers. So thank you for being my friend. And I want to thank you for allowing me to be myself today. Thank you. Oh,